Okay, boss. I'll let you introduce yourself, I guess. Like the who, what, why, when, where.
Who is Bailey. My name is on Instagram, Bailey Rae. That's sort of what I write under. Um, my dog joining
Oh,
the room.
that's all right.
Um, um, what I write, poetry mainly, but I also I was writing. Honey, I'm sorry, you can't come off my lap. Um, I was writing poetry only since like the start of this year, and I was primarily writing like fiction stories before that, which I still want to work on. I just sometimes it's easier to focus on something a bit smaller and less daunting.
Mhm.
Why? Why does anyone do anything? But I write because I struggle to talk about my feelings, especially with people who probably should hear my feelings. So I write things and I put it on the internet and hope that they figure it out.
hmm
And where is Australia? That's where I am at the moment.
I think I think you're not alone in that endeavor. You know what I mean? Like writing things down and to be able to like decipher them. Like I was trying to figure out um myself and why I do it too. Like this morning, because I was like, oh fuck, we're gonna have a conversation, and we do the same thing. So I'm probably gonna need to know like what the fuck I do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm exactly the same. Like fucking like I write it down to figure out what's going on simply because if we just have a face-to-face conversation like now, but obviously not through the medium of the fucking internet, and you'd be like, okay, like how do you feel? I'd be, when I first started, I'd be like, I don't fucking know, like I don't know, all right, and you
Yeah.
could be, I don't know, like I'd be able to pinpoint the extremes, but it's being able to decipher that code, you know what I mean, and that's through
Mm-hmm.
through words, which is a weird thing.
I think that a lot of it also is like sometimes you don't even really know how you feel about a certain situation until you start writing it down to try and like connect all of the little dots. And it's like, well, I'm feeling like this, so you write that down. But then why am I feeling like that? And
hmm
it sort of is like it really is just like writing a book, but you're sort of going from the end to the beginning. You're going from the effect to the back to the causation.
hmm Yeah, that's it, right? Like you see a lot, or I see a lot in the world in every scenario. People try and fix a symptom, right? They like put a plaster on a broken leg, and like no one kind of backtracks and goes all the way back and is like, well, where's the source of this problem? Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
agree. Like writing it down, you can create the layers and backtrack and go back to where it actually originated from, and then you can figure out what to do so you don't end up like fucking up again, you know?
Exactly. Learning from your mistakes,
Yeah,
writing it
or
down so you don't forget.
trying to, you know?
Mm-hmm. Or even
Right.
just like going back and like write it down. So okay, well, that's how I felt when that happened. So let's just not do that again.
Mm, 100%. Did you stumble into this, or were you told to do it, or have you always been like a writer? Like, are you good at English, or?
Always been a writer, pretty good at English. When I was in school, English was pretty much the only subject I was naturally good at. I did drop out and I asked if I could stay just to go to English literature classes. And they were like, no, sorry, you're either dropping out, you're staying completely. 1 second, my dog just got stuff
It's
on my
fine, bring
foot.
them up.
She's very loud,
That's all right.
but she is asking to come in my lap. So,
Oh,
yeah. Um, sorry about that. So, yeah, I've always been writing. I think the first time I remember specifically writing, I was about 8 and I wrote my sister a book for her birthday and I called it The Magic Pegasus. And it was about a girl who stumbled into like a magical world, found Pegasus and had to find her way back out. Um, I my home life was very turbulent, so I would read a lot, and then from reading a lot, it just sort of spurred onto writing a lot of like fictional worlds, fictional stories. So I've always been writing stories in a sense. Sometime last year, towards the start of lockdown, I actually tallied up all of the works that I had saved or like posted online on like Tumblr or something like that. And it was something like over 600,000 words. And that's grown a lot since then. So I've like completely lost count because I write at least like a sentence or two every day. And then I sort of was just writing like little snippets of things that didn't really fit anywhere. But my friend was like, that looks a lot like poetry. I don't know. And I was like, okay, maybe. And he lives in Sweden, so we send poetry books to each other because we both keep, I keep tabs on my favorite poems in poetry books, and I have like little notes about them. So when we sort of became pen pals, I started sending them to him. He would write his own notes and send my book back, and then along with the book is his own, and I sort of got more of an understanding of different types of poetry and different forms of poetry, because before that it wasn't really something that was in my knowledge center. Like I wasn't reading a lot of it, and what I did know of it, I didn't really connect with. But then I was reading a lot of the poetry he sent me. I started sort of going on Instagram a bit more and finding more poets on Instagram that I really do connect with. And then I started just to post my own. That was in about April. And yeah, now here we are, I guess. And it just sort of was a bit of a whirlwind from there that kind of really blew my mind a bit.
Like going back to the start, like writing a book at 8 years old, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's incredible. Like I don't know what I was doing at 8, but I definitely wasn't fucking writing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was like printed out on paper. I got some pictures from the internet, put them on
Wow,
Microsoft Word, stapled it together.
wow, that's awesome.
The whole shebang.
Do you still have it?
No, we moved around a lot, so I think it got lost in one of the various moves, unfortunately.
It is what it is, you
Probably
know.
still
But
remember it, but
yeah, it's
yeah,
now sometimes some things are only meant to be a memory. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it
exactly.
means a little bit more if it's not tangible sometimes.
100%.
Yeah.
And sometimes my sister will remember it. My sister actually just read Wildflowers and texted me like her feelings about it. But then she's like, "Do you remember when you wrote me that book when you were 8?" Yeah, I remember that.
So Wildflowers, talk to me about that. Like what made you pull the trigger and put it into like a collective and stick a cover on it and start selling it on the internet?
I have always wanted to be a published author, but the idea of publishing one of my fiction books is very different than publishing a poetry book, because a poetry book is primarily it's for me, it's writing about my feelings, my thoughts, etc. But then if I were to write a fiction book, I would have to like fully cater to a whole audience. It would have to be, perfectly edited, revised 100,000 million times, and I don't know if at this point I'm ready to take on that much constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I do want to be a published author, and I have all of these poems sort of about my upbringing, my mental health, and sort of going from when I was writing it, I was really reflecting about where I used to be compared to where I am now. And I'm in a much better place now, even though I do still have obviously like really dark times. I just think about sort of my surroundings, my job, the people in my life, and sort of where that started. So that I sort of just wanted to get it out there. In a sense, it was sort of like therapy for me, to be able to tell this whole complete story. And I know that 100 poems is not very long for a poetry book, but it sort of encapsulates the whole story that I wanted to tell, which is like the two parts, which is sort of like the before and the now. And I just sort of figured I have it all there. I have it all ready to go. And if I don't just do this now, I'm probably never going to do it. And if I at least do this, with something that means a lot to me, but it's sort of just for me, then I can work to catering to everyone else the next time, and then I can sort of work up to where I want to be in regards to being an author and essentially achieving the dreams that I've had since I was 8 years old, or even before.
Wow. Well, you've portrayed the utmost strength being able to publish it, throw it out there, and be like, "Hey, this is for me," but it's in a public format. You know what I mean? It's in a public forum and it's
Mm-hmm.
out. That portrays like the epitome of strength. Like that you've done it. Then that's a fucking box ticked. You know what I mean? It's a
Mm-hmm.
high five to yourself. It's a really weird thing. Like kind of publishing poetry because like you write the words, right? So clearly it's yours. Okay, and that comes from whatever emotion, whatever pain, whatever experience you have to dig out of your own head to then create those words. But people can read those exact same words and be transported somewhere else, right? So it's like 100
Mm-hmm.
people can read the same poem and get 100 different things from it. And that's the whole
Yeah,
point. And it kind of goes to the thing of like, well, you're going to publish it for you, you're going to do it for you, and everyone else will pick it up and they'll do that for them. They'll read it for them, not reading it to see your depiction on the world. They'll read it to kind of unravel their own emotions, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
exactly. So like when I read certain poems, even just the ones that I post sort of on Instagram, not necessarily the ones in the book, people will like tell me what their interpretation of it is in the comments, and it may not be what I was thinking or feeling or intending when I wrote it. But if your interpretation, this is from a YouTuber that I watch a lot, but if your interpretation can be backed up by the text, then you are right, despite what anyone else thinks, because you have the evidence there and you have a brain and you can interpret those words however you want to interpret it. So if someone else reads, you know, a poem and what they think it's about isn't exactly what it's about or exactly what it intended, because a lot of people, like maybe my mum, my sister, and my brother will know what 100% of these poems are about, then that's totally fine. And that's what it's there for. That's why it's in a public place. Because for me, writing it was sort of, it was really therapeutic. Writing it was healing. So I want to put it out there in case there is anything else in there that someone else connects with, because something that I've learned from my sort of journey over literally only the last 3 or 4 months is that someone will always connect with what you have to say, whether it's the same way or if it's in their own way, because everyone has their own pain and everyone has their own suffering and everyone has their own growth. And even the people who don't have that growth yet, they want it and they're looking for it somewhere. So why not put it out there for the people who want to read it? Because no one's going to be reading poetry if they're not actively looking for it.
100%. Like it's not something you kind of pick up on a whim. You know what I mean? Start reading it and want to see what the footy score's about. Like, nah, you probably need a hand on the shoulder and a little bit of like an emotional hug. So you're already going to be looking for the answers
Yeah.
that you want to see. You know what I mean? Have you seen Coach Carter?
No, have not.
Well, there's arguably like the one of the greatest movie speeches of all time and the greatest piece of literature I've ever fucking seen or heard. And it was basically said, let your own light shine because it unconsciously gives other people permission to do the same as they're liberated from their own fear. And like we kind of live in a world where everyone compares themselves to other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than sharing, and sharing is a personal thing because you're doing it for yourself and you're liberating yourself from your own fear and from whatever's swarming around in your own head. And then someone else will take that like public form and then bring it back to themselves rather than be like, oh no, Bailey's making all these like fucking cool poems. Like, nah, fuck that girl. Like, she's better than me, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's completely individual through a comparison, through a sharing rather than a comparison.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way I look at it.
I agree. And I think that that's something that I've also come across a couple of times on Instagram. Like people will message me and they will say, hey, like, how did you get so many followers? Or how did you get featured on this page or whatever the case may be? And I don't mind taking the time to tell them what I did on my page. But at the same time, like, I didn't do anything intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just write, and most of the time I don't even really think through the poems that I put on my page very much. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a bit of imposter syndrome there sometimes, but I genuinely like, especially during lockdown and earlier this year when I was sort of starting my page, a lot of it was like I would be sitting at the train station waiting for my train to work, and I would think of a poem and I would write it down, sort of revise it a couple of times, and then I would just post it before I get to work. And that was like the process. So I definitely don't feel like I'm any sort of guru on how to write a lot, how to write well, how to, you know, boom your page or whatever. But I do think that there's been a lot of people, especially people who were sort of following me when I had, you know, 100 or less followers, that have really been like, wow, how did you do it? And I'm like, I have no idea. I wing it every day.
Like, I think that touches on people get into things for the wrong reasons, right? Or not the optimal reasons, I'll say. In the sense of, oh, I'm gonna write things, or I'm gonna make a book because I want to sell 1 million copies, or I'm gonna write things on Instagram because I want like fucking whatever, like followers or whatever. And like what does that mean? It's just a number on a bloody screen, you know what I mean? And like
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like you're gonna spend 24 hours in your own head, and if things are like freaking you the fuck out because of external things, then there's an issue, and you need to live your life the way you're going to be able to keep your head level. And if that is at a train station, figuring something out, putting it up there, and it gets like zero attention, but that's keeping your head level, then that's fucking great. But if everyone on the
Mm-hmm.
planet turns around and goes, this is gold, then great. It shouldn't change like how
Mm-hmm.
you kind of see that. And I don't know. I think it's hard, but I think it's less in the poetry scene because it is hard to make something that is so hard hitting without
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of pain behind it. You know what I mean? A little bit of emotion behind it. Like you don't get, you know, roses are red, violets are blue poems, and you don't think of
Yeah,
it as like that's fantastic.
exactly. Yeah. Um, it's funny that you say that because I literally posted a poem about that, I think yesterday or the day before, maybe. Um, that was my interpretation of it anyway. But yeah, I would 100% agree because all of those poems that do get big and the poets that like do get really big and famous, they have a lot of life behind them and they have a lot of pain and trauma and suffering behind them. And I found that a lot of the people who are, you know, messaging me and the ones that I see who are really trying to like make it big on Instagram and have a lot of followers and such, they're like 15, 16-year-old girls, which like, I'm not saying that 15 to 16-year-old girls can't have a lot of pain and suffering. I know from experience that they can, but at the same time, you sort of need to grow past it and you need to reflect on it. You need to be old enough to understand the situation to really make, you know, the most beautiful art you can from it and turn it into something else. Because I think that when you're still sort of in that space and you're still thinking, how many followers can I get? You know, how many views can I get? Whatever the case may be, you're not really doing it for the right reasons and you're not going to be thinking about it properly and you're not really going to get very far. You might have 100,000, you know, bot followers, but what are they going to do at the end of the day? They're not going to interact with you. They're not going to, you know, read your art and feel something, which is the reason that we all do it, is because we want people to feel something and we want our experiences to, you know, hit someone else and we want to feel understood, and that is why we write. So if your focus is on like the number that you have on your Instagram account, then why are you writing? Why aren't you doing something else that could easily get you a lot of followers, you know?
100%. I could not agree anymore. You know what I mean? You look at like you can kind of show that through any of the arts, right? So you go over to like comedy, for example. Why do people want to be a comedian? Because they want to make people smile and laugh. Why? Probably because
Mm-hmm.
they're depressed as fuck. You know what I mean? Or
Mm-hmm.
like, why do they like being on stage in front of people? because they're anxious as a motherfucker, and it makes them face
Yeah.
that fear. You know what I mean? And then you look back through fucking history, even if it's recent history, you know what I mean? Great performers, great artists, great writers. Like they're all like wickedly like fighting some sort of, as we class it now, mental illness. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Wickedly fighting themselves,
Mhm.
and that's where it all comes from because they're just trying to figure themselves out. And that's all it is, like through making people smile, through making movies, through whatever, like writing. It's just trying to like decipher some code that has no language rather than just it's pain, it's a
Yeah.
signal. All right, but we can't like touch it. I've not sliced myself open, like I can't see the problem, you know what I mean? You're trying to figure it out,
Mhm.
and then it creates whatever it is, and you can always feel it, even if you've never experienced anything, right? Which everyone has gone through some sort of hardship, even if you've been born with a silver spoon in your ass, you know what I mean? You've felt
Mhm.
something in your life. And say for example, you've never felt anything before. You can always tell the piece of literature or art or whatever which came from a place. You know what I mean? You can
Mhm.
always feel it. You're
Mhm.
like, oh, that kind of punched me, and I don't really know like how or why, but yeah, that one left a mark. You know what I mean? And that's all
Mhm.
individualized. And yeah, I'd give them the same advice. Like, listen, man, like you're looking at yourself in the mirror every morning, like you're in your own head 24 hours. Like, what the fuck do you like to do? What do you understand about yourself? And then go like figure that out. Don't worry about
Mhm.
anyone else.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, it's not going to be like the roses are red, violets are blue poems that are getting that response from people. So you really have to sort of put some thought into yourself, because if you're just trying to write something that a lot of like, are you trying to write something that is meaningful to you that you hope people will connect with? Or are you trying to write something that is mass marketable for the sake of being mass marketable? Because they're two different things completely.
And you will never get it right in the sense of like I've written poems before, right? And I'm fucking bawling writing this thing, and every time I read it back, I'm fucking crying because I know what it means. I know what it came from. You know what I mean? And I'm like, holy shit! Like this is going to fuck people up, and people don't give a fuck about it. And the next thing you know, I've like whipped one out, and I'm like, that's kind of missed the ball, but half of it kind of makes sense. And okay, cool. Like, yeah, that's kind of good enough. I stick it on like a picture and like throw that fucker up and whatever. And people are just like, oh my God, like this thing. And I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. Like to me, that kind of missed the mark. You know, I'm
This
like,
one?
yeah,
You
I'm
want
like,
this one?
really? Um, yeah, and you'll never get that right because it's all individualized, it's
Mm,
personalized, it's fucking individual people. We are all different, you know what I mean? We've got different bodies. As my mum always used to tell me, it
yeah,
was like everybody's different and every body is different and every mind's different too, you know, like we're all just different people.
yeah, 100%. Like there are definitely, off the top of my head, I want to say maybe four, maybe five poems in Wildflowers that are about, to me, they're about the loss and the death of someone very specific. So they're about a very specific thing. And I probably will never post them on my Instagram. They're in my book, but I probably just won't post them because I I know that that will make me very emotional,
Mhm.
but I also know that like no one's really going to resonate with that in an isolated sense.
Yep.
Um, like the way that I have laid out Wildflowers is very like everything's in a very specific order,
Hmm.
so you can sort of get the idea if you read them like in a sequence. But sequentially is the word I was going to use, and I forgot it. If you read them sequentially, it makes sense, and you sort of like understand the idea and you understand what it's about and the impact and all of that stuff. But then I don't want to put myself through having to post it because 100 people are probably not going to care about it, but I care about it a lot. So it has the place where it belongs, and sometimes the place where it belongs just isn't on Instagram,
Yeah, I feel you.
which
And
is also okay.
100%. And the thing is, like now it's immortal. You know what I mean? That person is now immortal because they are a tangible item. They are within the words intertwined. They are on a piece of paper, in a book, in a physical thing that will sit on a fucking bookshelf across the world. It will be passed down, it passed over. You know what I mean? Like now that
mm,
person is immortal. Like they fucking will not die simply because like
mm,
the emotion, the memories, the experiences has now gone through a pen, gone into a page, gone onto another page, and now it is this thing, and that
mm,
is like the fucking biggest compliment you could ever give someone. And it's actually fucking weird because we've been talking like half an hour and it's like I'm fucking talking myself in the mirror, um because I've done well, obviously a female and much prettier version than I am, but fucking it's the same with with the book. So I put my granddad at the top, at the front of it, so I'm on the other side of the world, right? And my gramps ended up
mm,
fucking passing away last year. What are we, 20, 21? Yeah, late last year. And I'm like, well, I can't go home. The whole world's kind of shit itself and locked it into individual isolation. And like, what am I gonna do if I go home? I can't see the
mm,
bloke. I can't shake his hand for the
mm,
last time. You know what I mean? I was like, thank you for everything or whatever. So I was like, well, what the fuck am I gonna be able to do? So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna create a poem.
mm,
So he is now immortal, and now he is in a book, which is kind of weird because I'll give it to people, and the first one is about someone that they'll never know. But I'm like, that's not for you, man. That's for me, and that's for that's
mm,
for him wherever he is now. You know what I mean? So I fucking relate to that so hard. I think it's beautiful.
mm. Thank you. I think that those were definitely like some of the hardest ones for me to write, but it was my cousin who passed away. It was really sudden. I was 18, he was 19, and we were really, really close growing up. Um, so a lot of, like I said, there's like quite a few in there. Um, but sort of like, even though like I understand it, sometimes I would just find myself sitting there and thinking, what the hell? Like, why? And there's a poem in there about that as well, which is literally just like, why? Like, what? Why? What was the point of you dying? And there's one about like sort of just me thinking about how he was older than me, but I am literally older than he will ever get to be, and I'm getting to do the things that he, always wanted to do, and just sort of like reckoning with that in a way, because it's not something that a lot of people really think about until it happens, and a lot of people don't have to think about it. And my sister read, like I said, my sister read this book, and there's a lot in there about my dad, my ex-boyfriend, my cousin, and she was in full tears and was like texting me and was like, oh my god, like I see your side of it so much more now, and like I didn't know how much all of this stuff had like really affected you. Like I didn't really understand it, and now like reading it all in order and like in one sitting, I understand it all, and I'm so sorry. And I think that it's going to be different for the people who know you who read it, and it's going to be different for the people who have no idea who you are who read it. But at the end of the day, people are going to interpret what they want, and that's the point. And if they don't like it, then like again, poetry is a very personal art form.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, it's not for you, it's for me, and it's my experience. It's not fiction. It's a really stylized way of telling you the truth.
100%. Like I tell people all the time, if you don't like it, put it back down on the shelf. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
fucking pick it up. Like put it back down. It's fine. Leave it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's now there. Like Wildflowers is now there for people who need it, who want it, who would like it, and who also is like it's the last ditch effort to like keep them here. Like it is now there. It is a tangible thing. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
that's I don't know. That fucking fires me up. You know what I mean? Like that's awesome. Like you can connect to people, you can touch people's lives without them even knowing who the fuck you are, and that doesn't even matter. You know what I mean? Because you've done a personal thing for you, and that's a huge step. And then
Mm-hmm.
also a huge step on their perspective is picking this thing up. It's like, oh, this thing called Wildflowers. Okay, I'm going to pick that up. and now you have the
Mhm.
capability of helping this person simply because they're going to depict something different from the words that you put on the paper.
Yeah, 100%. And even, when I think that also in the process of writing it, when my sister did message me, I was like, and she was like in tears and like apologizing. I was like, yeah, but like, look, like, I don't feel all of that anymore. Like, writing it out and like writing this book and everything, like, I feel better about this. Like, I feel better about a lot of things that have happened. So you don't need to apologize. You don't need to feel bad for me. Like, it's there and I'm sharing it for a reason, which is that I am learning to let go of it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
I just get it sort of out of my system. Maybe, I need to write 100 poems to get it out of my system. Maybe I'll never fully get it out of my system and it'll always be there. But when it festers, I have an outlet for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine, or I'm as fine as I can be. And I'm a lot more fine than I used to be.
That's it. It's expression, right? It's expressing and figuring it out and like using that emotional energy. And I think that's really important. And I think people need to learn that. And I think people need to learn it at a young age. And I've kind of like sat back and thought about it. I'm a thinker, you see, like I won't talk for a long period of time because I'll be thinking and then I'll come out with like just a gigantic speech and then be like, what the fuck is this? I'll be like, well, because I disappeared for like 2 weeks, or longer. But I'm like, what I've noticed is young ladies are much better at it simply because we allow on the whole, I'm going to tie everyone with the same brush, which isn't necessarily correct, but for argument's sake, um, we allow young women to express themselves in whatever way. I'd be like, which is exactly what they should be doing, exactly what everyone should be doing. It's like whether it's fucking different types of fashion, whether it's go do whatever sport, whether it's fucking art form, whether it's literature, like do whatever you need to do. And it's usually like, okay, how are you feeling? And then why do you think that is? And do you need to talk about it? And like
Mm-hmm.
socially, it's a little bit more acceptable in my eyes anyway, correct me if I'm wrong, um, to like talk to your mates. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm feeling like this.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone would be like, right, cool, let's, fucking sit down and let's chat about this. Flip it over onto the other side of the coin. It's like, well, what do we tell our young lads? Like, well, man up, shut the
Yeah.
fuck up, don't cry, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. Put it in a bottle, let's shake it up. And then like, oh, then we wonder why when
Mm-hmm.
we unscrew the cap, it fucking explodes. And I think it's so important that everyone, like we break down these barriers now. Like it doesn't matter, male, female, doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if you're fucking born in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Africa. It don't matter. Like it doesn't matter if you're fucking fully able, disabled. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you're fucking black, white, pink, purple. That doesn't matter either. It's like right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fucking draw a line now, and everyone can step up to said line, and we can
Yeah.
go over that
100%.
line together. You know what I mean? And be like, right, let's fucking. How do you express yourself? How do you like deal with whatever's going on, because inevitably something's hurt you, and some people find it harder to let
Mm-hmm.
go of those things, and we're the weird people that write it down, you know
Mm-hmm.
the weird
And
introvert
share it with the world.
shy people and
Mm-hmm.
share it with the world, yeah, which is an even stranger concept.
I know.
It's odd, right?
It's strange, yeah. Especially like you said, like introverted people. And I'm sitting here and like my sister was like, oh, I ordered your book, and I was like, oh, that's scary. Like I know she follows my Instagram, and I was like, have fun, good luck. And my mom's like ordering a copy. Luckily I'm ordering it for her. She doesn't have Amazon or anything, so I'm ordering it and I'll send it off to her so I can include like a little note with a disclaimer. But it's like I will share it with 100 million strangers. That's fine. But then like people I know when I read this, and it's like, oh, oh, I didn't consider that.
Mm. It's yeah. When was it published? Recently?
2 weeks ago.
Oh shit.
Exactly 2 weeks ago. Yep.
Yeah, it's really strange. um like my mum still hasn't finished my book,
Mm,
um, as I know of, because it takes a lot out of her to read it. You know what I mean? But we had a better relationship. Like it was just me and her growing up. We had a better relationship, and could talk about a lot of things. you know, but there's a Tupac line, which again is poetry, but it's fucking poetry to a beat, is like, for a woman, I finally understand, for a woman, it ain't easy trying to raise a man. And like, yeah, it's same the other way around. Like, for a man, it ain't easy trying to raise a fucking woman, like, because we don't fucking understand.
Yeah.
And then my dad fucking read it, and he finally understood. And it's really weird. It's a really strange concept, because it's like, you know, you can kind of battle with these people for a long period of time, yet they will not hear exactly what you're saying when you tell them straight. You have to like code it up into some weird, like, poetic format, so they have to kind of unravel it themselves, and they're like, oh my fuck, okay, I finally understand. I was wrong, or you were wrong, or that probably shouldn't have happened, or whatever it is. Like, I finally understand how you felt. Let's now mend what has happened, and now go forward in a better way. It's fucking weird. It's weird, mate. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
know the fact that I had to like publish a whole book with 100, and technically I have a forward poem, so I'm going to say 101 poems, just for my sister to be like, oh wow, this is how you felt all those years. I'm like, yes, I've been trying to tell you.
Yeah.
We got there though. Got
Yeah.
there in the end. Yeah, definitely. And I think like you said, you're pretty close with your mom. I'm close with my family, but at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that we just don't talk about because we don't see eye to eye on it, either
Understood.
on how it happened, or I have a lot of resentment towards a lot of things that have happened, and a lot of resentment towards people that my mum and my sister particularly are like, no, but you know, this person, and they didn't mean it, blah blah blah. They've been not meaning it for like 20 years now. So when do you sort of draw the line?
Understood.
And a lot of the poems in Wildflowers are about those situations and sort of like the ramifications of how it impacted me and how it impacted my mental health. So even though probably shouldn't have taken a whole published book to get there, I'm glad that at least it's sort of breaking through the barrier a little bit. I think that's at least a positive.
And like, you know, I'm kind of, you know, blessed with a fucking awful memory, so I forget a lot of things. Like, way too many concussions and that, so I'm definitely gonna forget who I am, which is a blessing and a curse, I guess. But like, you kind of, you get to a stage where you're like, all right, well, all that shit's happened. However, it's pushed me to do this beautiful thing. And like, that in itself causes a beautiful outcome. So like, you know, a seed starts to grow in the dark, you know what I mean? And then it fucking creates a beautiful flower. So
100%.
yeah, you have to, well, wildflowers, there you go. Like, I didn't actually fucking mean that. I'll say I meant that.
You
But
meant
then,
it
yeah,
100%.
yeah, 100%. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, that was the intention.
Yeah, definitely meant it. Well, yeah, then it can only ever look back at it and be like, you know what? I'm kind of glad I was like dragged through the hedge backwards, because then I've created this thing now, and I can help people that I will never meet.
Yeah.
That's fucking
Yeah,
cool.
100%. And I like, if there is anything that I'm grateful for being born with, it is being born with a passion for writing. I'm not going to say I'm particularly great at it, so I don't want to say a talent, but a passion for writing, because it's given me an outlet for years, and I would probably have gone insane by now, like if I didn't have the ability to do that. And sort of what you were saying about, you know, planting a seed and having it grow. The last poem in the book is called Rebirth, which is sort of sums up all of it. And it's like a metaphor of, well, like the opening line is, don't mistake your cocoon for a coffin.
Wow.
You're not dead, you're just growing, you know, and you'll come out of it one day. So don't think it's the end, just keep going through it and it'll be better than you could have imagined.
That's absolutely stunning. Like as a singular line, like you're gonna fucking extract it from the poem and like leave everything else where it is and like take it as its own entity and that. Like that's gonna well, that's punch me in the fucking face.
Sorry, but thank you.
Well, no, that's what you fucking make the mean to do, right? Like it's like
What you want. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like don't mistake your cocoon for a coffin. Like definitely, like it's okay to sit down and let the world spin for a little bit. You know, you don't have to be
Mhm.
going a million miles an hour every time, like every day, and like you can just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you do
Everyone needs it
to do that?
to relax,
Mm,
right? um, um, honestly, like I'm a cleaner. I
mm.
will like go and polish my entire kitchen, listen to a true crime podcast, and just go. I read a lot, so it's one of those things. Read poetry books specifically. I find that very soothing.
That's nice.
And I think they're I would say easy reads because some poems are very hard hitting, but the thing I like about poetry books specifically is that you can sort of put it away. Like it's not like, oh, I have to finish this chapter. It's like, okay, well, this poem hurt my feelings, so I'm just gonna pop that one down, set it aside.
Mm, mm.
We'll come back to it later. But also just to sort of read about other people's experiences, um, and how they express that as well. I really enjoy.
What's what still blows my mind is like the similarities of like the feelings. You know what I mean? Like some experiences will be fucking polar opposites, and where people are born are polar opposites. Um, but like you create the words and it's like or you use different words, blah blah blah. The way you structure it is different, blah blah blah. You actually like dig through that and take away all the fluff, and you'd be like, okay, where is it actually from? Take the experiences out of it, and
Mm-hmm.
like, what like emotion is it from? Like, it's exactly the same, and like the ability for people to create something completely different from the exactly the same emotion blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. And I think that's something that I love about poetry as well. Um, and I think that no matter what, you know, poetry book you read, no matter who it's by or when it was written, there's always going to be like at least one poem about heartbreak, at least one poem like about a breakup or about unrequited love. And if you compare all of them, none of them are going to be the same, even though it's about the exact same topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gives you an intangible connection with people that again you may never meet or people that you won't meet because they've already passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and that's special.
It's something that I think not a lot of people experience in their life. And I think that poetry, especially, is a very underrated um, art form. I know
Mm-hmm.
that's my sort of the bookstore that I always go to. Whenever my partner and I like go to the store, like go out for lunch or whatever, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like pop into the bookstore because he's like, weren't we just here like 2 days ago? I'm like, yeah, but I'm just gonna look again, you know. The poetry section is very small,
Mm-hmm.
very small. It's like maybe two shelves that are not very big shelves. Um, and I think it could be bigger. And sort of every time before it was um, published, and people would ask me like, "What sort of book are you writing at the moment?" And I'd be like, "Poetry," and they're like, "Is that profitable? That's not the point of poetry." Like, I'm sorry, but it's not.
Yep, yep. Um, that only makes me smile because I've had exactly the same thing. I've either had that's not a good idea. Okay, it's not a good idea for you, motherfucker, but I'm gonna do it anyway, so I appreciate it. Or like, oh,
Mhm.
you're not a woman. It's like,
Yeah.
so what does that mean? You know what I mean? Does that mean I can't feel emotion because I'm not a woman? I'm like, fuck you. I want to do this
Mm.
anyway. So, oh
Mm.
well.
I do think that as well. Like you were sort of saying earlier about, do you want to stay or do you want to go? What you were saying earlier about like expression and how it's sort of most socially acceptable for girls to, express themselves, and especially in this sort of art form. Because when you were saying it, I was thinking about it, and I think I have 7 or 8 poetry books on my bookshelf at the moment by women, and then I have 3 who are possibly written by a man because I have the 3 Atticus books.
Mm-hmm.
So I assume Atticus is a man, but I genuinely don't know because height of space and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely think that is a space that could be more open to the male perspective and male authors, because I definitely think that they don't get as much attention, whether it's on Instagram or just generally in the world, as the female authors do.
Yeah, like the male brain is a fucking weird one. It's very erratic. Like it's like a fucking dog chasing its own tail. Like if you fucking sprinkle anything in front of a vulnerable male's mind, it's gonna go straight at it. You know what I mean? Like whether it's constructive or destructive, it's gonna go all the way. And you're like, well, is that a good idea? Like, did we think about it? It's like, no. Well, why are you doing it then, dude? Like, let's calm down. Let's try and like figure this one out. Oh, might have lost you. You still there, mate? You back? Can you hear me? Technical difficulties. That's all right. Hey, boss. You back?
Can you
Aha.
hear me?
I got you.
Okay, amazing. Yeah.
Sick.
We're getting some bad weather, so I think maybe my internet cut out for a second.
That's all right. That's all right. What was I saying? I told you my fucking memory's not good.
Dominican customs.
Aye.
I heard man's brains are erratic.
Yeah, like you sprinkle anything in front of its face, like whether it's constructive or destructive, like it's gonna go full blown 100% in its way. You know what I mean? Like we are the dumb part of the species. Like once if you keep a male mind within 2 lines, within 2 barriers, like we can fucking we're incredible people. Like we can create some fucking amazing things. But if you don't create those barriers within a fucking male mind, like we will destroy everything. You know what I mean? It's just fucking stupid.
Feel like the rat in the maze. Give them some walls and a bit of cheese to go after, and they'll get it. But don't let them loose in the house.
100%. 100%. That's men right there. That is exactly it. And I think this is the thing, right? I think dudes need to be taught that at a younger age, right? And they also need to be taught individualization. All right, figure out who the fuck you are, how you work, your positives, your negatives, your strengths, weaknesses, and all that, and be able to create those barriers for yourself. So I'm talking male to male now. Like be able to create those for yourself. Like I'll take me for example. Like I have to have a morning routine, otherwise, like my fucking normal mental state is a very shy, very depressed, very like introverted thinker. You know what I mean? Like I'm very like I kind of operate on a really low level, which I mean I've created a book out of, but at the same time, like it will end up fucking me up. So I have to do X, Y, and Z to kind of elevate me to level my head out so I can keep going. And I think people, and lads especially, need to be taught like that's okay. You know what I mean? Like to fucking figure that out and to be able to express themselves. And I actually having a conversation yesterday about it, and I don't understand why, because they look at it right and they'd be like, poetry, art, expression, that's feminine. And you're like, okay, well, first of all, point number one, you're a human being, all right? So that means you need to know both the male and the female energies, okay? Because you're a whole rounded human being. So you should fucking know both of them, not just one. So that argument is no. And second of all, like we're gonna pick out arguably the best like hip hop and rap artists of all time, right? You go like Tupac, Biggie, Eminem, Jay-Z, maybe 50 Cent in there, okay?
Yep.
And you go, so just naming five. All of them write poetry. All of them are expressing themselves and expressing pain. And you would never look at one of them and be like, you're a feminine man. So it's like, just because you don't put a beat to it doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. And I think that it's the same for like a lot of things, because you could, so like if you were to write like a song, or if you were to write like a rap, then it's fine. But then if you say like it's poetry, and if you say it's only got 3 lines, then it's like, is that real art? Are you really writing poetry if it's only got 3 lines and you're putting it on Instagram? Don't think so. Well, you would know if you did it, or if you read it, or if you wrote it. You would know that it's not for you.
Which
and
is fine.
It just goes back to like target audience, and like I said earlier, I think that the people who are reading it are the people who are looking for it. Like no one really stumbles. You don't pick up like Emily Dickinson's completed work and be like, light reading, just for the fun of it. Like you're looking for that. You are looking for that book. Big.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. And like, you know, if poetry is not your thing, like don't read it. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
The sound, you know. If you like to hear it, then listen to it. You know, this spoken word poetry is just to try to like put my finger in and give it a little dabble. You know, there's the whole hip hop, rap, grime, and that. Obviously, you gotta pick the right ones that doesn't just talk about dropping acid or some shit. Like actually talk to me about real things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, or if that's not your thing, go to something else. You know, abstract art, like art, working out, whatever the fuck it is. Like it's all expressing yourself, and it's kind of like got to the stage now where we're showing that you need it simply because like if you put a jug of water on the fucking stove, like eventually it's going to boil over. You know, so you need something to be able to alleviate that. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You know, I coach fitness, but you don't have to do that. Go do whatever you want. Like, and people come in, they're like, oh, well, I need to do. No. We're here for like mental state, man. You're here for this. Like, whatever you get physically is a fucking byproduct, man. Like, no one cares. Like, you could be the, fittest person in the world, but be wickedly depressed and end up clocking yourself. And what does that mean? Does that mean you're a healthy person? No. Like,
no, absolutely not.
It's being able to like bridge the gap now and kind of instilling in the young people that it's okay to do whatever the fuck you want to do within reason.
It needs to be done.
It does.
And I think a lot of it sort of comes down to that as well, like whether it's art, whether it's cooking, or like you said, going to the gym, or if it's, I don't know, video games, like whatever it is, the point isn't to do it for anyone else. The point isn't to do it because you have to do it, or because, you want to look a certain way, or, whatever. The point should be that it makes you feel better. And it's something that helps you clear your head so that, when you do need to do real life adult stuff, you have the ability to do that and think it through, and that you have sort of an outlet for when things don't go your way, or when things do get a bit, rough. You sort of always need to have that outlet to fall back on. And if your outlet is something that's not actually helping your mental health and not helping to clear your head, then it's not the right outlet, or you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yes, and yes. That's it. Like I want to be able to ask someone, why are you doing that? And the answer being, it levels my head. You know what I mean? Or it gives back to me, or it gives
Mm.
me like some respite, or something along those lines. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck yes, that's insane. That's the only answer you should be giving me. Like, yeah, okay, give back to other
Mm.
people, help other people. Yeah, like 100%. Like, I'm all about it. I get paid to do that shit. But at the same time, if it's always give, 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 and one of those gives isn't back to yourself, then you've got an issue and something's
Mm.
going to break, and that something is going to be you. Um, where can we find it?
You know the saying, you can't pour
No, go on.
wildflowers? It is on what?
Sorry, what were you saying? I think there's a
You can
little
find it
dot.
on at oh, I was just saying like the phrase "you can't pour from an empty cup" is like cliche for a reason because it's
Hmm.
true.
Hmm.
Like that's it. But you can find wildflowers on Amazon at the moment. I think it's available everywhere. I clicked all of the places that I could click to have it available, so it's available everywhere. Amazon will let me sell it.
That's awesome.
And if it's not available where you want to buy it, then I'm always happy to order a copy through because I know some people have had some issues buying it. Um, this is what it looks like just without this banner here.
It's a beautiful cover.
Thank you. I thought about making it myself. I didn't make this cover myself. I thought about it, but I just didn't have the time. So I got someone to do it for me, and I said, "Can you please incorporate these flowers, which are all mentioned in the title poem,
Wow.
Wildflowers?" And they did it, and it's beautiful, and I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's definitely clean. It's definitely eye catching. It's definitely beautiful. Like, um, when you first posted, like, it's out. I was like, fuck, that's a really cool front cover. Even even if everything else is shit, that's a cool front cover. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Even if everyone hates it, at least I know the cover's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. You're like, don't judge a book by its cover, but please, it's a nice cover. Judge it.
So maybe this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it will be sitting on my shelf whenever I order it, which will be very soon. When are you doing the Etsy the Etsy one?
When my author copies arrive, so we recently just went back into lockdown, so that's
Fuck.
caused a lot of delays. So whenever they arrive, which I'm thinking will be early next week, and then I will post about that on my Instagram as well, and I will let you know
Yeah.
when those ones are available.
Yeah. Gonna have to let me know. I want a little signature.
Definitely will do that.
That'll be really cool. Getting a little yeah, I definitely want to like segregate my bookshelf into a poetry sort of side and like speak to
Mm,
speak to people, learn the story behind people, and then also get a little signature on it. Fucking buy it, send it over here, and then stick it on. Like that'd be really cool.
yeah, I can do that. I would love to know what you think when you do get to read it as well.
Thing is, like I absolutely relate to everyone I've read that you've posted. If I've like clicked on and just scrolled through and stopped randomly and gave it a little read, or it's like just popped up, or it's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, on a story or something, like every one I've been like, holy fuck, yeah, like that's it right there. Like I don't have anything to add right there. Like there's a nail and you've just struck it with a hammer. Like that's done, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I got a lot of time. I got a lot of respect for that, and a hell of a lot of passion for it because I think it's fucking awesome to be able to like pull the trigger and put it out, but also
Mm-hmm.
like we do we do the same thing. So I know like the steps that you go through mentally to do that, and I'm like that's
Yeah.
fucking cool. Like that's showing like a fucking shitload of strength to be able to do that and like to give back to yourself. Not like, oh, well done, you're giving other people. It's like, nah, fucking well done, because you're giving back to yourself and you're going through those steps. And I'm like, that's really cool. And at the same time can still relate. And I'm like, yeah, that's good.
And at the same time, like whenever you like the same question is at every turn, which is like, but is it going to make you money? So that's not the point.
No, it's strange, right? Like we fucking society evolves around, you know, monetized metal, and now things that are intangible, like cryptocurrency, and also like 30% of the world's wealth we can actually touch. Everything else is just numbers on a screen. And like, granted, without currency, things would something else would take over. You know, trade is technically still a currency. Like we would value it in certain, you know, certain values and hierarchies, and then trade from whatever. But at the same time, like it's fucking weird. Like I'll kind of look at it and be like, look, man, like, you know, we're all gonna die sometime, you know, and if you've just kind of lived for the money, if that's truly you, like you go for it, like whatever. Like I'm not here to tell you you're wrong, because if you're living the way you want to live, like fine, whatever. But like that's not how I deem like happiness or life. And like I grew up not having two pennies to rub together, like fucking rationing things, and you know, like absolutely piss broke. And I'm like, I don't know any different, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I've
100%.
yeah, it's weird, man, because I've given more copies away than I've sold. And I've sold a decent few, like just around the place, like kind of talking to people, not like fucking buy this shit, just like, oh, you do that? Okay, cool. Where can I buy it? I'll fucking pick one up, you know? And I'm like, oh, thank you very much, you know? But I've given more copies away than I've sold, because I know it will help someone. You
Yeah.
know, if I know someone's having fucking suicidal thoughts, you know, and is legitimately strategizing how they're going to take themselves off this planet, what am I going to turn around and be like, this is $20? No, motherfucker, take this book. Like, take this book, take a hug, and this is my friggin' phone number, and like, this is it. Like, read this shit. Like, you're not the only person that's going through this. You know, like there's a lot more people that are in that dark box with you.
Yeah. And like it's just like my mom, like we grew up really poor as well. My mom still isn't very well off, but she like texted me the other day and she was like, oh, like I put some money in your bank, like so like so I know you ordered me a copy of your book. And she works at like this shop, and apparently this lady comes in all the time, and mom's been like showing her my account, and my mom was like, oh, I know I told you that, like I showed her your poetry, but she really loved it. And I was like, okay, well, like, does she want a book? And she was like, yeah, I was gonna put money in your bank. I was like, no, I'll just send you. It's fine. I'll just send another one.
That's beautiful. I got a lot of respect for it. I got a lot of time for it. You know, like that's it. You know, that because that's your goal achieved. You know, people are getting something from it. Like that's it. That's number one. You had this dream, this idea of being a kid, of publishing something and people being able to relate to it and take something from it. And like that's now been achieved. Like congratulations, you've done it. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Yeah,
well, cool. You know, that's fucking
I know
sick.
it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
No pun intended. But
Oh
it was
yeah,
a
shit. That's
crazy
another one.
thought.
What's
It is.
next?
It is
Are you gonna
insane.
make another one?
I sort of have two little plans in motion. So one is a fiction book that I'm working on at the moment, but that's still sort of in the planning stages. Been in the planning stages for a couple of years, but I'm like actively working on it now. And the second is I originally wanted to release a hardcover of wildflowers as well, but hardcovers are very expensive to make. And because Wildflowers is only 100 poems, it's single-sided, which was intentional because I find that when I read poetry books, if there's like 200-300 poems in there, I find myself sort of just flipping through them and skimming them rather than stopping, reading it, taking it in, and then going to the next one, because it's just like so many to get through. And so in my book, I wanted every poem to sort of be its own thing, and I didn't really want it to be distracted by a poem next to it. If that makes sense. And
Yeah.
even though when you read them all together, it tells a cohesive story, but I also want each poem to be its own sort of contained story as well. So that's sort of just why I wrote it single-sided. But I have a couple of more poems that I cut from it. So I'm working on, I guess, like a second edition with additional poems that I can then make into a hardcover. Because I still want a hardcover of it, but because they cost a bit more, so I'd rather have a bit more than 100 poems in them, if that makes sense. Just to sort of feel like it won't really change anything for me. I'm just adding some more pages. But like for the person who is, going to receive it, just to have a little bit more in it, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that. Like hardcover is like, I don't know, it's like the platinum medal, right? You're like, oh yeah, that'd be really
Yeah.
cool. But yeah,
Yeah.
you want it to be a decent book in your hand. Like, yeah, I 100% I get that, I agree. And also I'm doing the same thing. So I get you.
Amazing. Great minds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I don't know, I gave myself a challenge. Did it, done the first draft and going through the second draft. Hopefully it'll be done in the next like 2 months and be available and out. Like I'm one of those people that will like, I don't know, if I kind of give myself like a challenge or a goal or whatever, I just go like full steam. Like I said, like with a male mind, just fucking nuts. And yeah, I'll just work at it until it's done. Tick that box. Okay, it's done. Cool. On to the next one. You know what I mean? That productivity is again another box that I have to tick to level my mind. So yeah, it's cool.
I will definitely like sit on something and think about it and plan it until it's like meticulous. And then I'll be like, okay, time to work on it. I've got like, I have mapped out point A to point Z in like a graph, a mind map, a flow chart, every kind of way that it can be planned out. I have planned it out, and now I can actually start writing it or start working on it now that I know every single step that's going to happen.
Yeah, but you were good at English. You were like, that's your thing. This is your thing. So if you're gonna do your thing, like it's gonna be top notch, absolute, pinned out. You know what I mean? Like I was never good at English. Like I fucking couldn't spell a word at the age of 12. Like couldn't spell a single word. Like read 4 books by the age of 22. Like like fucking no. This was not my thing. It kind of came from I don't know, kind of stumbled into it.
But you made it your thing, which is like more important than
100%.
sort of having the ability there ready to go. Like it matters just as much.
And I think that's why personally that's why I'm so passionate about this shit, because for me it was a necessity, like without this I definitely wouldn't be the bloke I am now, as level-headed or as like critically thinking of myself, and also being able to see both sides of both sides. I definitely would not have been able to have done that without having gone through this, because I was always, deal with things physically. I just train all the time. That was how I dealt with everything as a kid, was just fucking training, kicking the shit out of myself 24/7, like just going at it. And then I had a serious back injury when I was like 18 or something like that, and just couldn't move my legs for 3 weeks. So I was like, well, I can't do anything. I can't move. Like I need help to go for a piss. So, what do I do? So it kind of just evolved from there, and it was like necessity, which again kind of fires me up, because I'm like, I know so many people exactly the same as me but would just tar themselves with this, nah, you're not good at that, so don't do it, brush. And I'm like, mate, I'm still not good at English, but I'm a fucking published, writer, you know what I mean? I get paid for this shit. Like, this is my job. Like, come on, you can do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh,
Like, just do it. And you're not going to know how to do it if you don't try. So what's the worst that can happen?
throw enough shit against the wall, eventually something's going to stick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's the mindset.
Yeah.
You just have to find what sticks.
That's it. Just keep throwing shit. Preferably not your own, because it gets weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, mate, I really appreciate your time. I won't fucking eat much any more of your Sunday.
Not a problem at all. I'm excited to see when your revised edition of your book is released.
Oh, thank you. It will be a second one. It's a different one.
A second one, amazing. So
Yeah.
I am going to be ordering the first one this week as well.
Ah, shit. Thank you.
That's okay.
I mean, I can send one over for cheaper. Like, I have them at my feet right now.
Oh, well, I mean, if you want to throw me a signed one.
Okay, Sam, I'll do that. I'll send it tomorrow because it is Sunday.
All right. I'll message you the details.
Oh, easy. Like I said, the challenge was to write one a day. So to write, not produce one poem a day, but have one for every day. So there'll be 365 in the book. Of just like, if you read one, obviously every single day, it would take you a year. And it's kind of like, it's weird. It's not like this one, the first one, a lot of fucking deep shit. Very, very, very similar to Wildflowers. A lot of deep things that I didn't really tell a soul. Maybe my brother didn't tell any previous girlfriends or anything like that. Definitely didn't tell me mum, because you would, as a bloke, you think it's your duty to protect your mother. You're like, when you think back of it, it's like, that's the most idiotic way of thinking. Like, this is a fucking badass and can do whatever they want. Like, what gives me the right to like think that? But it is what it is. But yeah, this second one is more of it's a bit of philosophy in there. It's poetry. It's fucking mental health stuff. It's heartbreak. It's kind of like me sitting back and like watching the world go by for a year. And you can kind of, if you read it all, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah. Mentally, he's been on a journey, And then the goal would be to do a third one. Like, they're all gonna have, the cover is gonna have the same character, but in different scenarios, and different scenes, which is based in Manchester, so my hometown. But I'm kind of throwing up the ideas for the third one. I've got an idea, but I'm not sure yet.
I'm excited to see what it is.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it's any good.
I'm sure it will be.
Well, like we said, it's all individual, right? Probably read it and be like, fuck, he's nuts. And I would not argue with you.
Nuts doesn't mean bad.
Yeah, it's the people that think they're normal. Those motherfuckers, you got to stay away from. Like,
exactly.
if you meet anyone like, oh yeah, I'm normal, like, nah, run in the opposite direction as fast as you can.
Where's the red flag?
Yeah, that's
put it on display so I know.
Yeah, that's a done deal there. Right, Wildflowers out now. Amazon. Is it? Did you say it was on Etsy?
Not yet. We'll be in the next couple of days.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because
COVID delays.
Waiting for the offer copies. Yeah. But worldwide on Amazon. Get involved.
Yeah.
Throw a high five at Bailey, and mate, I really appreciate your time. Enjoy your Sunday.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you, mate.
Bye.
Bye.